Well, Detroit Lions, I think I may have figured out at least a little bit of what our problem is with this defensive line in Detroit. At least my opinion is that the major issue that we have is that we no longer have Todd Wash. I think it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, Todd Wash began working with the Lions in 2021 as the defensive line coach. We incrementally got better throughout that season. And then throughout the 2022 season, we really began to take off. The defensive line started to click and they started to play, at a much more efficient rate. But then he left with a few other coaches, from Detroit to Carolina. And ever since then, our defensive line has suffered. Now, it's not, I'm not blaming the defensive line coach right now. I'm not saying that everything is his fault. But I think it does need to be said that it takes time too, right? Anytime you implement a new scheme, a new defensive or offensive coordinator, or you bring in new assistants or positional coaches, it takes a little bit, one, for the players to warm up to them, two, for them to buy into what they're telling them or selling them, and three, for them to work well and understand, what the scheme is and work well within the scheme. Well, I think in, the halfway through 2022, the defensive line was starting to get it. And that's when we started to see them play at a much more efficient rate, like I said a minute ago. And I guess if I were to go to the other side on the offensive line, look, the Lions brought in Hank Fraley in 2019. Our offensive line started to be one of the best in the league by 2020. I think we are top 13 in 2020, maybe a top 8 in 2021, top 5 in 2022, and now we're, 1-2 this year. So it takes a little bit of time is what I'm trying to say. But if I were to just purely look at some stats, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with a bunch, Brian Burns right now for Carolina is top 6 in pass rush win rate, 25%. He's winning his reps 25% of the time. And he's getting doubled 15% of the time. Derek Brown is number 2 for DTs with run stop win rate. He's winning 47% of his reps. He's getting doubled 41% of the time. As a team, the Panthers are ranked 13th in the NFL in team pass rush win rate rankings, winning 44% of their snaps, and they're ranked 21st in run stop. Conversely, the Lions are ranked 26th in pass rush, 30th in run stop. The Lions have nobody ranked inside the top 20 for edge rushers, and Aleem McNeil is the only defensive tackle that's ranked 18th right now. And I wanted to add some stats that I posted the other day because I think it really sheds a light on where our issues are with the defensive line and the defense as a whole. So right now, through 11 games, and this is also with about half the league played 10 games at this point. So this was prior to Sunday's games. The Lions, and this is the bad, right? The Lions are 16th worst in pass yards per game at 227.5. I'm okay with that. Like, that's not terrible. I'm good with that. 13th worst in passes defensed. 13th worst in interceptions. That one I'm not cool with. You've got to have way more interceptions and turnovers to be able to have some success and give your offense some more opportunities. I'd like to see this number be more towards a top 10, top 12. And that way the Lions would have, like I said, more opportunities to win with the offense. 11th worst in points against per game. This is not acceptable. This should be 11th best. So completely flip-flopped. We need to have a top 10, top 12 in just about every metric that will enable this defense to really help the offense out, during the course of a season. 10th worst in sacks. Again, this number needs to be flip-flopped. We should be 10th best or better. 10 teams are ahead of the Lions, or were ahead of the Lions, that played only 10 games. So we have a whole game ahead of 10 teams, and we are 10th worst in sacks. 10th worst in points against. Again, flip-flop that. We need to be 10th best. 8th worst in pass yards allowed, and 8th worst in forced fumbles. So, clearly speaking to the turnover ratio, the Lions need to be ahead. And I understand that, some of you are saying, well, what about Jared Goff and his turnovers? You've got to expect that. Go look at Mahomes' record this year, or go look at, any other quarterback in the league, that has a winning record. They have some blemishes. It comes with the territory. You are not going to get through a season unscathed. It's just not going to happen. There's only 3 good stats that I could find for the Lions. They're 6th best in hurries, but conversely, those hurries aren't turning into turnovers, TFLs, sacks, or, changing the field. 9th best in rush yards allowed. That's a great stat. Top 10 in stopping the run. I think that's phenomenal. 10th best in yards per game, 318.8. And that is directly correlated to us stopping the run. You're giving up 227 yards in the passing game, but they're giving up, 80 yards or so, 85 yards in the run game, just based on those two numbers. So I wanted to share that. We'll get back to the video. In 2022, Aiden Hutchinson was ranked the 21st best edge rusher as a rookie. That's a pretty good feat. I think it's a lot of, or at least a mixture of the player, his ability, and what the coach was instilling in him. But we played much better last season on that defensive line. Yes, we had issues at times. Yes, we couldn't contain a mobile quarterback at all. But we were winning more reps in the run stop and getting home more to the quarterback. So I think that the issue is beginning to manifest, itself into coming out a little bit. And Todd Wash, I think, is the initial reason why the Lions have regressed. Him not being in Detroit has allowed this defensive line and this new defensive line coach to take a step back. Hopefully that means in 2024, we're going to take a big leap forward. And that's what I'm planning on. We're also missing some players. We need some more players. We need some playmakers. And we're going to have that opportunity this offseason to bring in some free agents and attack it in the draft. And I went over that last night in a live show where I talked about the pending free agents that we have for 2024 and beyond. And specifically the defensive line and the DBs, because that's the biggest pressing issue that we have on the defense right now. So there you have it. I'm not going to go into a long video today about this. I just wanted to point out the fact that one of the best defensive line coaches in the NFL, Todd Wash, was highly responsible for the success that we had, the last half of last season. And he's not in Detroit. And I don't think anyone's really taken notice to this, that kind of change has had this trickle-down effect into performance on the field. But the Lions have to fix it. They're the pros in this space, and they're going to have to figure it out. So that's what I wanted to share this morning with you guys. We'll be back and share some more information here this afternoon. It's going to be a great Monday.
No respect.